Okay, so the second frame we're going to look at is called the forearm frame. So let's just say from the last situation to us here, maybe I was late with a forehand frame and he has got twice as close to me, twice as quick. So say I'm in a supine position, he's made grips, he's cut an angle, and before I got last time we looked at I physically, while he was this distance away, I got my arm on his shoulder, or even two hands on his shoulder, and my arms were straight. Maybe I'm late and he's now here. So I don't want to come in late with two hands and then start trying to get back to the first frame by bench pressing. I mean, I wouldn't say it's wrong, but it's not efficient. You know, I'm using a lot of energy. So rather than using a forehand frame, I'm just going to use a forearm frame. So if we just sit up 1 second, bro. So if you think about it on your knees, if you think about when Tyrone is this far away from me, I can keep him back with a forehand frame. When he's a lot closer to me and he's closed the distance twice as much, I can use a forearm frame. Okay, so I'm going to use a bent arm, okay, with a 90-degree bend in my arm. And again, that's a strong frame. If Tyrone lays flat on his back and connects his knees to his elbows, and notice the way he's got a 90-degree bend in his arms, he can take all my weight. Okay, and from this position, this is probably the strongest position the human body can get in. When you tuck like a ball and make frames with your arms and connect your arms to your knees, it's such a strong posture to have. So switch positions. So if we go back to our first drill from the Toriander group, so he's here. So he's winning fast. So last time we talked about how I would put my forehand frame on the closest part of Tyrone's body. The problem is, if he comes forward, the closest part of his body is still his left shoulder, but you can see, or you can't really see it, but I can feel that's quite an unstable frame. And even though I have made this wedge, this frame on my left arm, the movement of Tyrone's shoulder, he can nearly collapse that very easily because it's my forearm's sort of rolling off his shoulder. So I will go for the next closest thing, which is going to be on his neck, just with my forearm. So a few different ways of playing it. Just move back this way, bro. So we can use one arm. Yeah, so if he's got past the Toriander grips, I can just use one arm. And again, I can build the base to my elbow. I'm not trying to push him away. I'm keeping him at this distance so I can move my hip back and get my guard back. I can also, as he gets close to me from that position, I could use two frames. So I can use one on his neck, and maybe he tries to get a little bit closer with his hip. I can keep him back with my right forearm and his hip. Again, difficult to bring my legs in because his lower body's quite close to me, so we will use one of the body movement drills, the shrimp, okay, to move my body back so I can get my feet in. That's using two upward frames. We can also use the same movement with my hand pointing down, which would be lower pointing frames. We would probably use this more from a seated guard position. So when I was in a supine position and Tyrone got close from me from here, it was upward forearm frames. If I'm in a seated guard position, say I was in butterfly, and maybe he tries to push my knees to the side, the frame would work better now with my hand pointing down, a downward frame. Because of the angles he's at, it'd be very difficult for me to bring in this frame and this hand. As he tries to put weight and pressure on me, my alignment's all off. It would make more sense for me to use this frame but point it down. So as he drives into me, I can use that to keep him away so that I can start to get my guard back. So anytime we're in a seated guard position, more than likely we're using downward pointing forearm frames. If we're in a supine position, we'll be using upward forward or forearm frames. So that's our second frame from guard retention.